Hi everyone, it's Emmanuel Kadosh. I wanted to invite you all to subscribe to ILTV Plus, where you can find our daily news and updates about Israel. And not only that, but live feeds, entertainment, our kosher food show, and so much more. Needless to say, your subscription to ILTV Plus helps us grow and create more content while also supporting the state of Israel. Our app is available on all platforms and devices, so I'll see you guys there.
Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, the United States making public its intentions to bring Israel and Saudi Arabia closer together. Meantime, shocking scenes at Israel's short-staffed Ben Gurion Airport as workers filmed rummaging through the piling luggage, stealing what they want and tossing the rest. And finally, the 21st Maccabiah Games beginning today. ILTV heading out to meet some of the incredible athletes who are participating. Riding on the wake of the expanded Abraham agreements, the White House is saying that advancing ties between Israel and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is an increasing focus for Biden's upcoming trip to the region. U.S. President Biden and his delegation set to arrive in Israel on Wednesday, July 13, before continuing on to Ramallah in the West Bank and then to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia by Friday, and renewing ties between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, as well as establishing ties between Israel and the KSA, topping the list of the White House's priorities for the trip. But tempering expectations, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan saying that it would be a long process to success.
Any normalization of any kind would be a long process, but looking for progress and momentum in that direction is certainly something we are focused on as we head off to the Middle East.
And progress is expected. Israeli officials saying it's no coincidence that Biden is coming here on Wednesday and continuing Friday on a direct flight to Saudi Arabia, adding that incremental gains can still be a game changer. Meantime, the U.S. planning to participate in a summit with Israeli and Arab world leaders regarding food insecurity and other expanded regional partnerships. Israeli Finance Minister Avigdor Lieberman hoping for a future formation of a wholly new joint market across the Middle East.
הגיע הזמן ליצור פה שוק משותף חדש של מזרח התיכון. וזה חייב לכלול גם את ישראל, גם את ערב הסעודית, שהיא כמובן השחקן המרכזי, וגם את כל המפרציות וירדן, וחייבים גם לחבר את כל המדינות במין כביש חוצה מזרח התיכון.
Finally, don't forget to join us on social media tomorrow for live coverage on President Biden's visit to Israel. Now, joining me with more on the potential for future Israeli-Saudi ties, Middle East expert and researcher at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Dr. Kedar, it's great to be back with you. Now, the United States says that this will be a process. How long of a process would you say it is? Is Riyadh really that close to changing its tune on Israel without meaningful gains between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, which was a tenet that they upheld earlier?
No. The Palestinian issue is nothing which the Saudis could take in account. They hate the Palestinians. They couldn't care less about the Palestinians. Everything which they say about the Palestinians is only a fig leaf to cover another thing. And the other thing is the Iranian issue. Why? The Saudis were hit by Iran in the mid-September of 2019, like almost 3 years, when the Iranians attacked the facilities of Aramco and I would say devastated some 50% of the Saudi capacity of oil production for like a few months. And the Saudis still remember that hit, which nobody retaliated. Trump, who was then the president, never did anything against the Iranians because of this sudden hit, which they directed to the heart of Saudi Arabia. Israel, of course, didn't do anything. Saudi Arabia is very weak compared to Iran. So only if the Saudis feel secure enough they will go forward with Israel because they are very much afraid of the Iranian threat.
Okay, so what are the biggest challenges facing a possible normalization?
Biden has to convince them to go forward with normalization, and of course to increase their oil production in order to make oil lower in the United States. And Biden also has to deter the Iranians from interfering in Middle Eastern countries like they do in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Gaza, and they also interfere in what happens inside the Saudi kingdom.
Is the White House capable of upholding all of those promises?
Before capable, are they willing to say something, to the Iranians, or are they willing only to get in bed with them with this renewed JCPOA? And this is a question which I have no idea, because the American administration one day talks about the impossibility to come to terms again with the Iranians, but on the other side, we stick to diplomacy. What is this stick to diplomacy if you are not ready to devastate the Iranians if they fail to comply with your demands? So here we are. The Americans, in my humble view, they have no idea what to do with Iran. And until they know what to do with Iran, Saudi Arabia will wait until they see what happens with the Iranians.
Well, let's talk now a little bit about Israel's perspective in this normalization. Because given Saudi Arabia's history and human rights record, should Israel and the United States be looking the other way to close the gaps with Saudi royalty? Or do they think that maybe such ties might reform the Saudi kingdom? Or again, is that just irrelevant given the threat from Iran?
The problems with human rights did not start with Khashoggi. It started way ago, dozens of years ago in Saudi Arabia. Did it ever bother the Americans or the British or the other Europeans? Those the heralds of human rights. When did it start? Only when Khashoggi was assassinated or whatever happened to him. So this is hypocrisy. For who knows how many dozens of years, they couldn't care less about human rights in Saudi Arabia and in Syria and Iraq and Yemen, in Libya. When did they care about these things in the Arab world? All of a sudden, they started to be, worried about human rights in Saudi Arabia.
Dr. Kedar, thank you again so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Moving on, new political polls released following the breaking news of a unity between Defense Minister Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party and the New Hope's party under Justice Minister Gideon Sa'ar. But despite the changes ahead of the coming fifth repeat elections, the deadlock in Israel is still far from solved. With me to discuss is parliamentary correspondent from Haaretz, Noah Spiegel. Noah, thank you so much for being with us. Now, looking at Gantz and Sa'ar's new alliance, why don't you think that they're garnering any more support than before?
Well, nothing is sure yet because we've got lots of time till the election day. But I think there was two main ideas in this union. First of all, for Sa'ar, the polls are looking bad for him, and he's need to find a way to join someone if he wants to be reelected. And the second thing is Gantz's point of view. He wants to be a prime minister, and his main idea is to create a new bloc. Right now, we've got in Israel two blocks. It's the right bloc and the left bloc. And he's trying to create a new one, a center bloc. It's not a new idea. It's been, people tried it before, but he's trying to make a new way of thinking to the Israeli voters and say, look, if you are right-wing voters, you don't have to vote for Netanyahu. You've got a new option. That's the reason he's joining to Sa'ar, because if you look at Gantz himself and his party, well, he's kind of, considered to be more like left-wing. He met Abu Mazen. He looked like more left-wing, but in this union, he's like try to say, well, look, I am the center, and his main idea is to be a prime minister. That's the thing.
All right, now Health Minister Horowitz actually just stepped down from being the head of the Meretz party as well. How will this affect the polls and maybe the chances for a Gansal center bloc?
Well, we still don't have an idea how it's going to change the political map because it's new. It's just from now, But Meretz has a big problem. They had a problem before, and now the problem is probably bigger because till a few hours ago, Meretz was actually gonna had inside election between two people. We've got Nitzan Horowitz, which lead the party till now, and we've got Yair Golan, which is considered to be more Zionist, more ex-general, and right now Yair Golan is the only person for the inside election. And we need to see what's going to happen now, because a week ago there was an inside call from Meretz people to place again Zehava Galon as the head of the party, but she said she doesn't want to do it. Let's see what's going to happen now.
All right. Now, in light of the ongoing deadlock, we hear more and more that the Haredi parties, the ultra-Orthodox, are taking a more moderate position and saying that the blind allegiance to Netanyahu is over. How does that change things?
It completely changed things because I think that the last year proved that to the Haredi voters that being in the opposition, taking their sources. I mean, in the end of things, they want financial sources. And when you're sitting on the opposition, you're taking part in the opposition and not on the coalition, it's effect on the power you've got. And I think the last year proved that they need to find the way to make change, to have the power. And they see that election after election, Netanyahu is not managed to make a coalition. So they need to rethink about the position. I mean, let's say the truth, okay? The Hasidic, the Haredi is less interesting in, ideas of two-state solution or one-state solution. They want to take care of their voters eventually, and they need to find a way to do it as better as they can.
All right, Noah, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
In other news, the chaos at the terminal getting worse by the day as exasperated and overworked staff at Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv filmed looting through lost luggage and then throwing the rest into the trash.
מה חשבתם? שסתם יש על הפחים האלה את הלוגו של רשות שדות תעופה ורשום עליהם שמור על נתב"ג נקי? הם מנקים את כל המזוודות.
The problem of staffing shortages in the wake of the pandemic taking on a whole new tone today as footage aired last night on Israel's channel N12 News revealing a shocking new development. Whole flights worth of luggage seen opened, looted for valuables, and tossed aside to a trash compactor. Items thrown to the trash including car keys, new shoes, prayer books, medications, clothes, even cash. And this instead of being safely put into storage for pickup in Israel, sent to their owners abroad, or even just notifying travelers of where their luggage is, which based on the tags would be a simple matter. But worst of all, despite the airport authority condemning and calling for investigation into the matter, the whistleblower indicating that this is in fact a result of the airport's own directive to clear the halls of the increasingly piling suitcases.
זה מזוודות שסתם עושות בלגן בעין, בשדה, אז פשוט רוצים לנקות את השטח, שלא ימשיכו לעבוד כל יום במהדורות את הבלגן שיש עם כל המזוודות בנתב"ג. זה ממש מזוודות מהימים האחרונים.
יש פה טאג של מזוודה, מה-3 ביולי.
לפני שהם זורקים את זה למכולות של התקטנים, אז העובדים שעושים את זה, הם פורצים את המזוודות, כי הם רובם נעולות עם מנעולים.
Viewers asked to look closely at the tags and cases shown in the video to see whether their luggage is amidst the mess. Now, from property taxes to fuel and the price of dairy products, Israelis are already struggling with the expensive and rising cost of living. But now yet another blow as the electricity authorities announcing plans to raise the costs of drawing power by nearly 10% and by as soon as August 1st. Joining me with more is Chief Economics Commentator at Kalkalist, Adrian Filut. Adrian, it's great to have you back. So in real numbers, how much will the average household have to pay for power per month?
It depends on how many electricity do you use. But we can say that it's a 10% upside. And this is it's a huge amount of money regarding what we have been witnessing during the last years, that we were seeing how electricity prices were going down. So suddenly, because of the Ukrainian war, we are witnessing exactly the opposite. We are seeing the prices going up violently in next month in 10%. It's a serious stuff, and we have to take into account that electricity is a very important input. It influences everything: water, industry, services, hotels, malls.
So this price hike will not really be limited to electricity, because you're saying it's going to affect the price of everything across the board.
Of course not, and there is a serious threat regarding what we call inflationary spiral, or what we call wage prices spiral. And if the main fear is what we call that inflation is getting entrenched, and exactly this kind of phenomenon, it's what caused this entrenched process.
So Adrian, are there any available alternatives? Because the IEC has a monopoly in Israel. Would it help drive costs down if this was broken up, or is that just what power costs to produce, given extenuating circumstances like the war in Ukraine, as you said?
Yeah, we have to underscore that there are two things in Israel. We have the electricity company, that it's the electricity provider, okay? And we have the electricity authority, that it's a regulated, and let's put it like that, it's the government hand, okay? So the electricity authority, it's the body that set prices, okay? Not the electricity company. Okay, so right now the government must try to find out how they can mainly or basically put off, or even just smooth within time this process, because it's extremely problematic right now to rise prices with 10%. So they have to try to find another way, maybe to raise prices like 2%, and in another 2 months, another portion, but not all together. Okay, wow. This is the main issue.
All right, now speaking of inflation, the strength of the dollar and the euro are practically equal today. What are the consequences of this parity? And is that a sign of a global crisis? The United States and Japan, for example, just agreed to cooperate on addressing the impact of the war in Ukraine with G7 and G20 communities. What can they do?
Yeah, listen, former governor of the Bank of Israel, Stanley Fischer, used to say that there is no strong economies with weak currencies, okay? So we can use this logic and say, when we have weak economics, we have weak currencies. And this is exactly what's going on in global economy, while the U.S., despite of the fact that everyone is speaking about a harsh landing, we are seeing very good data, especially regarding the labor market. We are seeing a very tight labor market. On the other hand, we have Europe that is in a huge crisis. We are talking about the energy crisis.
Right.
We are not seeing the end of this crisis, since, as you mentioned before, the the war in Ukraine is not ending. On the other side, we are expecting a sort of economic slowdown, also because of the war.
Wow.
So we are seeing that the currencies are just reacting to this process that I have described right now.
All right. Adrian Firu, thank you so much for breaking this down for us. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Now, delayed by a year due to the coronavirus pandemic, the 21st Maccabiah Games beginning today in Israel, and the experience is gearing up to be a life-changing event for the thousands of athletes from all over the world who are preparing to take part in it. ILTV's Kayla Eberlin with the report.
From July 12th until July 26th, Israel playing host to 2022's largest world sporting event, the 21st Maccabiah Games. The so-called Jewish Olympics, including competitions in 42 different sporting events, and, for the first time in Israel, women's ice hockey. And tens of thousands of people will be watching from all over the world. Meantime, some 10,000 Jewish athletes from 80 different countries will be participating, which is nearly as many athletes as in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. But while 70% of the athletes representing teams from abroad, many, like students at Reichman University, already in Israel, chasing opportunities that may only have been found in Israel.
Well, there's a tremendous connection between Reichman University and the Maccabiah, because the Maccabiah is an amazing Zionist activity. In the 1930s was the original Maccabiot. Sometimes those Maccabiot actually saved Jews who came here from Europe and remained here and remained alive and were not murdered in the Holocaust. And now I'm very happy and I'm very proud that at this university we have students who come from a number of countries around the world, and they're actually participating in the Maccabiah. Additionally, we welcome all participants in the Maccabiah to come and visit us, have an interview with us. We'd be very, very happy to have you study here. We'd be happy for you to join the sports teams.
Further, Reichman students like Ilana Ackerman, who will be playing in the Maccabiah on behalf of the Colombian Women's Open Volleyball team, and Daniel Morali, who will play for the German Men's Open Football team, agreeing. The 21-year-old Morali even playing a part in starting teams at Reichman that compete at an international level.
So me and two friends, we created a university team, Reichman University Bees, the RUBs, which is an incredible opportunity for people that study here at Reichman, play football and live their dream. We participate in the International League of Israel. We'll play against international teams from Nigeria, Russia, Argentina, Venezuela, and so on and so forth. And I think that we created something that is changing a lot of aspects of this university in terms of sports also, because we think that football is connecting people, especially with having fans every week and playing games, which will be incredible for this opportunity, especially in university.
And of course, this while the two students studying concurrently in business, economics, and entrepreneurship.
All the Maccabiah athletes should realize that Reichman University is the #1 university in Israel out of 70 universities and colleges in sports. We won the University Athletic Championships this year.
This is a country full of opportunities where you can mix academics and sports, or your passion, that in this case is sports. For example, playing in the Maccabiah, or just being at a school where you can represent the school and receive credits for that, instead of just having to choose between the academic part over your passions. And that when you graduate from school, you can find a lot of cool and good opportunities for your life.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight, the forecast is calling for clear skies across the board, with lows averaging around 21 degrees Celsius or 70 Fahrenheit, and then more clear skies expected around the country tomorrow, with highs remaining steady, seeing top temperatures of 34 Celsius or 93 degrees Fahrenheit. That's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel and around the world, check out our website, ILTV.tv. You can also subscribe to our newsletter and join us on our streaming platform at ILTV+, and you can catch that across all of your devices. I'm Aaron Porras. Be well. Thank you so much for watching.
It's Emmanuel Kadosh. I wanted to invite you all to subscribe to ILTV+, where you can find our daily news and updates about Israel. And not only that, but live feeds, entertainment, our kosher food show, and so much more. Needless to say, your subscription to ILTV+ helps us grow and create more content while also supporting the state of Israel. Our app is available on all platforms and devices, so I'll see you guys there.